Hello, everybody. It's me, Nate, aka Devil Dog, and I'm back with another game review. This time I'm reviewing A Plague's Tale Requiem. It was developed by Asobo Studios and published by Focus Home Entertainment and just released on October 18th of 2022 on the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X and S, and oddly enough on Nintendo Switch, but only the cloud version. Now, it makes me wonder why couldn't they have done that with PS4? But nonetheless, oh well. Now, what exactly is A Plague's Tale Requiem? It's an action-adventure stealth game set in the 14th century that is 6 months later after the horrific events of the first game, where we now find our two main heroes, Hugo and Amicia, traveling to southern France in the hopes of finding a cure for Hugo's mysterious blood disease. Now, along the way, you have to deal with an even bigger problem, a much deadlier rat plague. Hugo also being overwhelmed by his new-found powers, and on the top of all that, poor Amicia having to deal with severe trauma from having to be forced to kill soldiers of the French Inquisition just to survive. Now, the other main thing about this is all around, this is a supremely better version than the last game. Most sequels normally generally are, but honestly, Asobo really pulled out all the stops when it came to this particular sequel. Along with your natural upgraded weapons that you have your knife, which you can use to stab soldiers, your crossbow with different bolts that you can use to attack people from afar and also set up traps. You have your classic sling from the first game that you can have rocks that you can apply different chemicals to them to have different reactions as you can sling them. And basically the main focus once again is heavily on the use of fire and your two main abilities. Ignifier, which you use to ignite things, and Extinguish, which is used to knock fires out. And the new addition this time is also the added part of using tar, which can be used to spread fires out and also used to dump on soldiers and light them on fire as well. And that right there, honestly, as I was playing through it, was really kind of disturbing to me to like set somebody on fire, but then also trick them into getting eaten by the rats. Now, the locations in this game are way larger than the first title, and in fact, they really wanted to focus heavily on making it to where you have a lot more variety and choices that you can make through this game. So the locations being so much larger, when you first get to an area, they'll normally pinpoint you where you're supposed to go. They're like, oh, we need to get over there, we need to do this, and then at that point on, it's almost like, I wouldn't say Hitman style of variety, but it does have a lot more open-ended game structure that allows you to make different possible ways of getting through these areas and use it to tackle the enemies, the puzzles, and be able to progress through it. Now, the other thing, the main draw with the first game was the rat plague, the black plague and all the rats that'll eat you alive. And they've really went crazy with this game. The first game had a whopping 5,000 rats they could display on screen at any time. And these giant swarms of rats were amazing. Well, guess what? They knocked it out of the park with this. They went from 5,000 rats on screen to 300,000 rats on screen. And that's not even including other things as well that you can actually deal with, like the different enemies and puzzles and stuff like that. And the rats are way more intelligent this time. And once again, you use fire to actually keep them away. The other thing I noticed is the last game you could climb up higher to avoid the rats. Well, not anymore. These little bastards can actually climb up walls. If there's any sort of cloth tapestries or any way they can get up, these guys will come after you, so you can't just get to higher ground to survive and get away from the rats. The only real true way to avoid them is to sick them after other people or the use of fire. That really seems to be the only honest way you can keep those guys at bay. Now, as along with all the other additions to this game, they upgraded upgraded the progression system as well, to where now you unlock different skills and abilities based on what you're doing at the time. So let's say if you focus heavily on stealth mechanics and you're really good and you want to upgrade stealth, well, don't worry. You can keep upgrading your stealth to make it to where you can trick the enemies a little bit easier. You can hide in the cover and disappear faster. And that's on top of everything else, like being able to counter guards and then run from them. And also it works along with combat skills as well. So if you are more heavily focused on being a combat sort of person instead of stealth, you can actually build your character around that to where you can make Amicia actually end up being pretty good on the combat spectrum, to where it's not forcing you to constantly hide all the time. You still need to, but fortunately in this, it's not a one-time shot if an enemy catches you now. The first one, if you got caught, it was one and done, they'd kill you. This time, you can get away, you can counter guards, and actually get away and hide, which adds so much to the overall layers of this game. It really makes things great. And of course, along with the new upgraded progression system, you can also upgrade your weapons and gear at local workbenches that you find throughout the world. And along with Amicia having some new abilities, Hugo has got a couple new ones in his back pocket as well, including the most best one of all, which is pretty much in just about every single stealth game known to man. His is called Echo, and it gives him the ability to see, pretty much enemies through walls. It'll highlight them with like a red aura around them, so you can track enemies through walls now. Honestly, it's a great addition. It's not really anything spectacularly new, but in a game like this, I think it really was needed and helps, especially with the overall size of these game world levels that you go through. Now, as for size, this is a pretty hefty game. Honestly, it's pretty impressive. Give or take, it'll take you 15 plus hours to get through this title. Honestly, you can probably run it through a little bit faster or take your time and go through it slower, and it could take more, but that's a rough guesstimation of what you're going to get is about 15 plus hours through this adventure, and at the price of $59.95. That's right, people, a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series X game that isn't $70. Isn't that kind of odd? Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't really say it's a triple A title, but this one is like definitely 2.5 out of 3 A's, really, in my book. The first one I absolutely loved. It was dark, it was disturbing, it was gory, it was so decrepit and just depressing as you played through with poor Amicia and Hugo just trying to survive and escape. And the ending to it I thought was really, really cool, especially with the ability to control the rats. And in this one, you get to do that too as well. Hugo's abilities really have expanded quite well in this. You have some really neat options you can do with the rats, and there's nothing quite like that feeling of sneaking in to a crowd or a bunch of guards or something, and you're like, okay, how do I get past this area? And you're like, oh, there's so many options you can do, from like throwing a rock to distract the person, or you can shoot them with a crossbow bolt, or if you want, or my personal favorite, like I said, is getting tar on them and sending them on fire. I've had them run around and catch other people on fire and kill them for me too, which was actually really cool. And then on top of that, just the rats alone, the mechanic of using the rats is one of the biggest highlights of the series. The first one had it, this one has it, and it's so much better with the fact that there's 300,000 of them at a time now. Just the ability to lure someone over and then knock the fire out, and then the rats eat them alive. And when they get done and you throw the fire there and you just see nothing but a picked clean skeleton, it's honestly, considering Sobo Studios, how small they are, I am very impressed with their game. The first one was great, and this one just expands upon everything in all the best ways imaginable. Now, keep in mind, if you're not a fan of stealth-type games, I might not be able to recommend this to you, but since it does have a little bit more variation in terms of the way of playing the game, with the overall world size and the level design, and the ability to actually get through these puzzles and areas, doing it in a different way, almost sort of like a Hitman game, I can still say definitely, if you're able to, check it out. I absolutely love this game, and right now I'm saying, at least for right now, it's my personal favorite PS5 game I've ever played. It really is. It's up there with Elden Ring. Not as epic as Elden Ring, but man, oh man, just the nerve-wracking parts of being able to get around and avoid all these rats as they're climbing up the walls after you, and you running for your life trying to save poor Amicia and Hugo and get to the end of this and possibly solving the mystery and finding a cure for poor little Hugo. I absolutely adore this game. And like I said, that's my own personal opinion. If you feel that I've missed anything that I should have talked about, please leave in the comments below. Do you plan on playing A Plague's Tale Requiem or not? Is this a game that you might like or you might just dislike because it can be quite disturbing? Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll answer each and every single one of your messages. And of course, here at Devil Dog Gaming, we always end our videos by saying, have fun, play hard, and remember, people, the devil is in the details. Peace out until next time.